Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here at Book Blather. If you're new here, I'm Dave, this is Olive, and we mostly talk about books and try to have a little fun while we're doing it. So, it's been a few weeks. If you watched our last video, we did warn everybody that it was going to be a difficult few weeks with real life stuff, but some of that's done. Daughter is off to college, and so we are back. So thanks for your patience. We missed you guys. I don't know if you guys missed us, but we missed you guys. So we thought we have a number of things to do. We have our really big summer book haul that we have each year. And we read a few things for Garbogus we want to talk to you about. But we figured we would jump into it first with a tag. Because you guys know we don't do tags very much. But we were asked to do, we're going to try to do more of them. And we were asked to do this one. This is Brian's Belltube Nightclub tag, which is a fantasy and sci-fi tag. So really good for us. Heidi asked us to do this one a while back, so we were meaning to do it, and then somebody tagged us in it. I'm not sure. It might have been Gareth at Book Songs and Other Magic, but if I don't remember. But if somebody else tagged us, please tell us so we can edit the description below. But I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. But anyway, so this looks really fun. So we'll jump right in it and let us know what you guys think. So we'll probably be a little rusty here. It's been a few weeks. So these are all themed. These are all cocktail questions. Are all nightclub themed. So here we go. Prompt 1 is a cocktail hour. Name a book that you think pairs perfectly with your favorite drink. Now we did not even have to think about this one. This one is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So this book, we really enjoyed this book. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy. And this series, so what this is, briefly what this is about is there's this girl, and they live in the Russian wilderness, and the father brings back a very Orthodox Christian, very strict stepmother, and who was trying to impose her Christian doctrine on everything. And our main character, I forget her name, Vasya. Yeah, so she kind of communicates. A lot of it's actually based in Russian folklore, and so that's what she connects with. So there's this tension between the mythical creatures that she can communicate with from this Russian folklore and this Orthodox Christianity that's being brought into the house. And so it's in the Russian wilderness in winter, and this is one of the most atmospheric books that I've ever read. And we read this in the winter. It was like January or February, so it was the middle of the winter, cold out, and every night we would sit on the couch and read this with chilled vodka. We'd have these chilled vodka and tonics on ice, and that was how we'd read this book. And it was the perfect setting. Every time I hear somebody's going to read this book, I tell them to do it with chilled vodka, because it was so atmospheric. You could just feel the cold reading this, and it was the perfect matchup between a cocktail and a book. Okay, so the next one is Neon Lights. Name a book that you think pairs... No, sorry. Neon Lights. Name a book with a cover that immediately grabbed your attention like bright lights in a club. So for that we did... So this is a book we picked up not that long ago. This is a book we found in the wild, and this is Lightspeed, Year 1. So Lightspeed is an online science fiction magazine, and this collects the first year's worth of stories. And as you can see, look at that. Look at that cover. I think it fits the prompt. So, okay. So the next one is The Bouncer. What book did you have to put down because it just wasn't letting you in? Now, we do not purposely DNF books like pretty much ever. We do it by accident sometimes because we start reading too many things at once, but we almost never do it on purpose. And this one we did. The Female Man by Joanna Russ. Now, this is a pretty acclaimed book. We try to buddy read this with Gareth, other Book Songs and Other Magic. we both stopped reading it. We were having such a horrible time with it. It's supposed to be, it's a famous book. It's supposed to be a great piece of, feminist science fiction, but it just it tells a story. So you see like these different times or versions of Earth being told by different people, but it's almost like it's told like purposely confusingly. You can't tell who's talking or what's going on, or you can see we DNF'd it pretty quick. Gareth did go back at another time, tried it again, and finished reading it, but this was horrible. It was one of the only instances where I purposely DNF'd the book. It was really, really hard to follow. So, DJ's Choice. What book would you recommend as the perfect read for someone new to the fantasy genre? So I've mentioned this one a few times before, not because it's the best book in the world, but just it holds a special place in my heart, which is this one. This is what it actually looks like, the original version, Dragons of Autumn Twilight. This is the first book in the Chronicles trilogy of the Dragonlance series, which is now spawned, I don't even know, it's like 100 books or something like that. There have been a lot of authors now have written books or trilogies in this series, in the Dragonlance world, but this one, this was the first trilogy by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This is not the best book in the world, and is not even close to the best fantasy book in the world. I mean, it's written a little bit immaturely, and the story is based on the author's it is based on an actual D&D campaign they were having with some others, and they crafted this story around it. So it's I don't want to say traditional, but it's kind of a classic fantasy quest, and it was just this book. So this is what my copy actually looks like. It has been beat up so many times over the course of a few decades. So I bought a new copy when I asked my daughter to read it, so she wouldn't have to read this piece of trash. But this was one of the first full-length novels that we ever read, and we loved it as a teenager, and it's we hated reading as a little kid, and this is one of the first things that turned us on to reading. So holds a special place in our heart, and I think if you're new to fantasy, this would be a good place to start. It's pretty simple and fun. And then prompt 5 is Disco Ball. Name a book that made you feel like you were part of a vibrant, glittering world. So for this one, we picked Beneath the Sugar Sky by Sean McGuire. So this book is part of the Wayward Children series. The first book, which is a famous one, is called Every Heart a Doorway. And that told the first original story, and it's about all these children. Certain doorways had appeared to children into other strange worlds, and it's that first book centers around this orphanage of children who have come back many years later, and are having a difficult time adapting back to the real world. So they all live in this orphanage, and after that first book, Every Heart a Doorway, there have been other books where we get to see some of those other worlds that they went to. There are quite I don't know how many there are now, like 8 or something. There's quite a few. I don't know exactly how many, but this is we haven't read the whole series, but this is the third book in the series. And what this one follows is a girl shows up at the orphanage looking for her mother, who's no longer around. I don't want to spoil any of the books, and so she's looking for her mother. I won't say any names, but it turns out this is her child that's shown up, that she had when she was in this other world. And this other world is a world of confection. So she tries to, for certain reasons, she tries to get these other people to go back to the world of confection with her. So some of it's like, I don't remember it that well, but some of it was like preliminary stuff, and some of it was when they go back to the world of confection. And it's basically a world of like candy and nonsense. It's governed by nonsense. So it's just a silly world, but there's all this, there's all this stuff is made out of candy and sweets, and you know, there's royalty, castle, knights, all this kind of stuff. But so it's really this really fantastic fantasy world, you know, centered around candy, and so it seemed like a good pick for this prompt. Okay, the next one is prompt 6, Dance Floor Diva. What book had you dancing with excitement from the first page to the last? And for that, we would say Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So this is one of the, not everybody loves this book, but a lot of people really like it. This is one of the most addictive books that we have ever read. We read this in a weekend, right, Olive? We read this together in a weekend, which was rare for us, and because we just couldn't put it down. And just very briefly, this book is, give too much away, but it's a many worlds book, and you meet this guy Jason in the beginning, who's just, you know, he's kind of living a little bit of a dull life. You know, he and his wife, so he's married and they have a son, and you know, they didn't really pursue. She's an artist, and he's a physics teacher at a local college, who didn't really pursue their dreams to pursue this sort of to pursue this family life. And so but you see a lot, you know, obviously you see possibilities, and it's a I don't want to give too much away, but it is a really riveting adventure. It is very fast-paced, high-octane story. I mean, it is constant action. I literally couldn't put this thing down. And this has now actually been turned into a show on Apple TV called Dark Matter. And I thought, based on having read the book, I thought that they were going to have a hard time following the book closely in the show. Show is pretty good, and the show followed the book pretty closely. I mean, there was one like major thing that was a little bit different. I mean, they had to do something. They couldn't they couldn't have a TV show exactly like the book, but I was pretty impressed with how closely it followed the book. So would highly recommend the book, and would highly recommend the show if you have Apple Plus. And so, or Apple, what's it called? Apple Plus, Apple TV, whatever it is. Okay. Prompt 7, guest list. Which author would you invite to an exclusive book-themed party, and why? And so the person that we came up with is Keelan Patrick Burke. So Keelan Patrick Burke is probably our favorite horror author. We haven't read everything by him, but we've read a bunch of stuff by him. And he's pretty popular for not, you know, he's not a super big time horror author, although he has won a few awards. But we pick him for a couple of reasons. Number one, because we love his writing. We've really enjoyed every one of his books that we've read so far. Most of them tend to be short, but they're all really good. They're good stories. They're creepy. They good character exploration. A lot of times it's these like characters descending into madness, and always a lot of some subtext there. You know what I mean, to tease out of the thing. So they're good books. But Keelan Patrick Burke is also hysterical. He's on and off different media platforms, but if you've ever seen him before he's been on Instagram a number of times, or Twitter. He'll post these little short reels all the time, and he is always hysterical. You could tell he would be great hanging out with at a party. So I would love to invite him. Okay. VIP entrance. Which book did you feel privileged to read before it became more widely popular? What's going on, Bobs? Come on. Let's go. You falling asleep here? You little pick me up? You'll pick me up? She's doing that on purpose now, I think, so that she gets the pick me ups, because, you know, she didn't used to act so sleepy in these. I might have another pick me up here for you. I don't know. So this one is, which book did you feel privileged to read before it became wildly popular? Hey, Olive, what's this? Before it became wildly popular. So, for this, we are going to say, now you're awake, right? Now you're awake. We're going to say Wool by Hugh Howey. So, this book, there's now 3 of these books. There have also been like some other people have done little books, but so this book is basically what this is about. Is this it's about the society in the future. In this first book, you don't know why. So there's three of them. Like I said, it's a trilogy now, and they in this first book, all of society lives in this silo, and so it was pretty inventive concept where this whole society is traverses this like 100 floors, and like so all the machinery that makes the silo work is down at the bottom, and some of the more like the levels of government are up towards the top, and so and you have different like IT plays a very big role in this story, IT department. And so and people live on all different levels, and different things happen on different levels, different parts of the economy and such. So it's pretty inventive, and it could take you, if you want to travel from the top floor to the bottom floor, it could be like a two-day trip, because you have to walk down the stairs, no elevator. You got to walk down the stairs to get to the other levels. So it's really interesting seeing that this whole society like arranged this way, and and there's a lot of action. There's big mystery. Of course, we don't know why they even live in this silo. And then there's some things happening, and we follow this main character Jules, who's like investigating. He's kind of like the sheriff of the silo, or a new sheriff in the silo. And so anyway, very, 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 very cool story. Part of the trilogy. And now this has become a series also on Apple TV. They call it Silo. That series is called Silo, but the book, this is now referred to as the Silo series, I guess. But the original book was Wool, and we read this book because we read this book. We love to say, because it's so popular now, it turned into a TV show. But we read this book before it was popular. So this book was originally self-published. Hugh Howey was a big proponent of self-publishing, and he originally self-published this book. This version, you can say it's a New York Times bestseller. This is when it was out in paperback in the store. But yeah, we read this before. Everybody talks about this now. We read this before anybody was talking about it. And it is one of our favorite books. I mean, we're talking top 5 books probably of all time. So, we would highly recommend that. It's a really good one. Okay, now the next prompt is dance battle. Which 2 characters from different books would you love to see face off in a dance battle? So, this is kind of funny. At first, I didn't know what to do, and then I realized that the answer was easy. We would love to see Batman from Nightwalker by Marie Lu face off against Wonder Woman from Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. I just think it would be really funny to see Batman and Wonder Woman engage in a dance-off. Right, Olive? That'd be pretty funny, right? Don't you think? Okay. Prompt 10. Midnight Read. What's a book you couldn't put down and ended up reading it all night? So I don't think I've ever stayed up all night to read a book, because I would fall asleep no matter how exciting the book is. But one book that I did stay up late repeatedly is one of my favorite books, which is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. And so this follows basically these 2 characters, Victor and Eli, neither of which is they're kind of so they're like college roommates, and they discovered basically a way of generating like basically, I don't want to say superpowers, but basically a superpower in people, and different ones and different people, and they but it's well done. It's well done, but neither one of them is actually, they're kind of enemies, become enemies, but neither one of them is like a good guy. So interesting perspective from in this story. So it was pretty good, and you meet different characters, and it was just really, this book was very hard to put down. I couldn't wait to get home from work and start reading it again. And so we read it, we basically each night we came home and we would like settle down on the couch. We couldn't wait, settle down on the couch, and we just read it. We'd read it till late, till we couldn't keep our eyes open anymore. So really good. So we are now finally reading the sequel, Vengeful, which is a little bit bigger. I mean, that one wasn't short either, and this one, I can't believe it's been this long since we read Vicious a couple years ago now. I can't believe it's been this long. We still haven't read this. We bought it. We've been sitting on it for a while. So now we're finally reading this we're buddy reading it now with Gareth. We didn't start it yet. We're about to. Buddy reading it with Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic, and Chaz from the Bookish Chaz. So pretty excited about that. Another one that we highly recommend at Vicious. Okay, the next prompt, only 2 left here. Prompt 11 is After Party. What book left you with a hangover, unable to start a new read immediately after finishing it? And so I would say this. Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. So this version, as you can see, these are tough pages. This version, I think, was 500 pages, but if you read the mass market one, it's more like 800. We don't usually read books that long, but this was probably a mistake for us. Not that it wasn't good, but this is a mistake jumping into this. You got to be a sophisticated fantasy reader for this series. So this is part of the Malazan series, A Tale of the Malazan, Book of the Fallen. It's called. So I think this total by Steven Erikson, I think there's 10. And then, but there are his partner did a number of other books that they jointly kind of created this world and this. What was his name? I forget. But anyway, he did a bunch of ancillary books that fill in different spots and things like that. But Erikson did the main 10-book series. But you have to be a sophisticated reader for this fantasy series, I think. And I had heard that beforehand, and I didn't listen. And I went into it anyway because there was a book event going on, and then I didn't get too far in the series because it's good, but it's tough. So this book it's not only long, but this book starts in media res, right? It's a big world, and you get there's no build up. You don't see an anti-hero as a young child, evolve, growing into his into his role. This is total media res. You get dropped right in the middle of this massive war that's already going on. And that's just the style. There's a lot of debate and philosophizing behind this book and why it was structured this way and why Erikson wrote it this way, which I'm not going to get into today, but it was tough. You get thrown into this world where stuff's already going on. There's always all these characters you kind of already should know, but you don't. And it's a big world and a lot of characters. And so it's not easy. And so a lot of people love this series. A lot of people consider this the best fantasy series of all time. A lot of people try and quit, or can't make it through, and they drop out after 3 books or 6 books or whatever. So a lot of times that happens to people multiple times. It's a commitment, this series. So we will go back to it, I think, years from now when we've read quite a bit more fantasy, and we definitely have more time to devote to this project because it's a serious project. It's a serious long-term project. Okay, and then the last prompt is 12, late night conversations. Which book left you thinking deeply or wanting to discuss it with others late in the night? And for this, it can't be any book other than the one that we are always discussing, especially in live streams, is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So this is a science fiction book. If you've seen us on any of the live streams you've already heard us talk endless amounts about this. We have a couple videos posted about this series. So there's now 3 books in the series. Children of Time, Children of Ruin, Children of Memory. I hope he keeps going. I'm thinking he probably will. Adrian Tchaikovsky is very prolific. He's like the Brandon Sanderson of fantasy at this point. He's just pumping the books out really fast. And so, but they're great. I love this book. I love this book so much. There was so much going on in this book. So many big ideas in science fiction happening in this book that I can't stop talking about. Anytime anybody brings this book up, I love to talk about this book. So this is the book. What was it? It said, thinking deeply or wanting to discuss it with others late into the night. Yeah, there was so many cool ideas happening in this, and I could talk with this book about people, with people endlessly. It's such a great book, and there's so much to talk about. So highly, highly recommend this if you haven't read it yet. Okay, so that's it. That is all 12 prompts. So we want to thank Brian for creating the tag. This is a really cool tag. And we want to thank Heidi and whoever else it was that we can't remember that tagged us in this. We're sorry. Let us know if you've read any of these books and you have any thoughts on them, or if you have some answers to any of these questions. We'd be happy. We'd be curious to hear what your answers are. So, if you don't have anything substantive you want to say, you can always leave Olive a puppy emoji, because, come on, nobody's going to leave you a puppy emoji if you just like sleeping there the whole time. You can always leave Olive a puppy emoji, right? Because you do always like to see those, right? Right? Yeah. So. All right, glad to be back. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you again very, very soon. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.